Hello, I'm Martha. I have an older sister named Bertha, and we hate each other. Ever since I was born, there was an authoritarian and destructive sister. She always wants everything to belong to her and refuses to listen to anyone. We often quarrel and weep. I guess my mother was very miserable when raising her two daughters, who were always causing trouble. To be honest, I just wanted Bertha to disappear immediately. She is so annoying and bad. She's always stealing my food, clothes, and toys. Even my mother, she also wanted to take, and it was too much. But I don't need to fight for anything because people love me so much. If I cry, Bertha will immediately be scolded. That made me feel very gloating. Since childhood, I have owned a pure and lovely appearance. I became an attractive girl and studied well. I won many awards at school and was an obedient child. And Bertha, on the other hand, once told me that she hated to be like me. So she always did the opposite of what I had. She often played fighting with children in the neighborhood. Growing up a little more, she neglected learning. Once she skipped class to play with her friends and didn't go home for 2 days. My mother was very worried and called the police to find her. As a result, they saw that she was having fun with a bunch of bad people in a bar and dropped out of school to go to the bar to serve. What the heck? Is she losing her mind? Joining in this such complicated place, not even leaving a message. Because she was a minor, the police only made a warning report and took her home. She came home and didn't say anything. My mother was worried, so she shouted at Bertha. As a result, she yelled at her and kicked her out of the room. I was extremely angry about that action, but Mom stopped me when she saw that I intended to fight Bertha. It's ridiculous that my mother is afraid of her. Perhaps after this time, my mother was afraid of her to leave again. Okay, suppose this time I forgive her for the sake of my mother. If there is a next time, I will definitely give her a lesson. Not long after that, Bertha continued to cause trouble everywhere, but one very strange day, she came home but didn't argue with me like usual. Bertha looked miserable, her clothes dirty, as if she had just rolled with someone outside the bush. The lips were pale and the eyes were red. It was the first time I was worried about Bertha. I thought for a long time and decided to knock on Bertha's door to inquire. She refused to open the door, but I could hear the furniture being knocked out very clearly. What happened to Bertha after all? That question kept me up at night. Since then, Bertha has become silent. The weirdest thing is that Bertha's health is getting worse. Whatever she eats in her mouth is vomiting up. My mother wants to take her to the hospital, but she insists on saying that she can walk by herself. After returning from the hospital, Bertha looked even worse than before. What happened? I'm not sure about how I feel, but I feel she's lying. She told my mother that she had a stomachache, so she needed some snacks, and then she went into her room. I was very curious about this. In the end, I decided to wait for her to leave the house and then sneak into her room to check. I rummaged through the room and saw no declaration of her illness. I searched the trash can next to the table and found a pregnancy test with 2 distinct red lines. My heart was beating very fast now. I tried to look more and I saw a crumpled paper which was an ultrasound. The result was 2 weeks pregnant. What is going on? This is an unexpected fact. Suddenly, Bertha returned to her room. I was discovered. I'm dead now. I don't know where to run anymore. Bertha looked very scared. She screamed and rushed to recoil the paper. She even beat me. I angrily threatened her that I would bring this result to my mother about her pregnancy. I quickly recovered the paper and ran down the stairs. Bertha frantically followed me, and both of us were struggled for a while. Unfortunately, Bertha slipped down the stairs. I was dumbfounded. Blood on Bertha's legs. Unexpectedly bleed. Mom saw and quickly called an ambulance. She's been in a coma for a whole day in the hospital. Her mind was extremely disturbed, laughed and cried so hard to understand. My mother knew she was very sad too. I felt guilty, but after a while she grabbed my hair and cursed me like a crazy one. I started to hate her again. It's true that we never got along with each other well. Everything after that eventually passed, but Bertha's psychological state was increasingly rebellious. But I was no longer irritable because I already had a lover. He was Roy, a good guy who had been after me for years, but now I agreed and accepted him. I took him home to my family debut before deciding on marriage. My mother loved him too, but Bertha was crazy. She chased Roy away and protested my marriage. After that, I hated Bertha even more. On the day of the marriage, I wrote an invitation to all my relatives. My mother advised me to invite Bertha. I was worried that she would ruin the wedding, but she begged for a long time. I finally decided to write an invitation to both Bertha. The ceremony was extremely convenient, and Roy and I cuddled each other. We cherished this moment. The bustling atmosphere of the ceremony disappeared after Bertha appeared. What the hell? She wore a wedding dress to the party? This is crazy. She drank a lot of alcohol and cried everywhere. She took the microphone of the wedding MC and started talking bad things about me. I couldn't stand with it, so I asked the security to drag her out of the party. She begged me to allow her to invite my husband a glass of wine. Roy agreed and downed the glass. Bertha smiled wickedly and tossed the glass of red wine in her hand on my white dress, so I ran into the room to change my clothes. Not long after that, Brother Roy felt dizzy and asked to go to the toilet. I felt something was wrong, so I quickly changed and chased. As a result, having just arrived at the men's restroom, Bertha helped Roy to the door of a nearby hotel room. I ran over and pushed Bertha out and kept my husband. She cried miserably and said I was a bastard. She blamed me for stealing everything from her. It turned out that she always envied me because I have the admiration of everyone and you are not. Another horrific fact was that Miss Bertha hid for 2 years she was raped. Roy was the one I secretly loved when I was a student. She loved Roy very much, but he didn't know about her existence because at that time, Roy was pursuing me. After learning that Roy loved me, Bertha became even more resentful of me, then left and cried in a grove of trees in the dark. As a result, a hoodlum had seen and raped her on that horrible night. I finally understood why that night Bertha had looked so dirty and pale. That fetus belongs to that hoodlum. She originally didn't want to have an abortion because she hoped to have a child to be friends. But I made her miscarriage and she hated me. At that time, she was so scary she rushed over and hit me. Roy, after being more alert, supported me and held Bertha back. Everyone at the wedding party didn't see me and Roy, so they went looking. When they saw me and her struggling against each other, they came to stop. After the ceremony, we also completed the marriage procedure. Bertha was taken to a mental hospital for treatment. I seem to no longer hate her anymore. I have pondered a lot. Am I like what Bertha says? Please comment your thoughts under the story to let me know.